up a chair, set the world aside. Let's find the truth we keep trying to hide.
Welcome to Across the Table podcast. Pleasure to have you guys with us. Our guest today for take 2, because our first session, something happened. I only got 1 minute of it. So, Todd,
But it was the best interview that was ever done.
greatest interview that you'll never see. But again, I have with me Todd Smith and Erik Vecere. They co-author together under the pen name Todd S.E. Vecere. And welcome, guys. Thanks for coming back. Take 2. Yeah, that was a little odd thing that we had never had happen before. And these gentlemen have been nice enough to come back and tell us about their book once again. Well, actually, they have 2 books. One is a novella that is available right now called Bennu. And then they're also in the middle of doing a 3-part series with Saboteur and...
Yeah, it's we call it the Merrizien story trilogy, which is 3 novels. The first one is Saboteur, Protege is the second, and then Matron will be the third in that one.
Interesting. What Matron? That's interesting. I wonder how that comes in. That
I know.
bringing in the matriarchal sources for the last one.
Yeah, you know it.
So, I've always found it interesting when people co-author together, because I kind of wondered how that process works. Like, how did you 2 even hook up to start writing together?
We met in summer of '80. I was in a neighborhood fight, and his mom invited me in, and it took off from there. That's it was made.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember that day too, because I had just started building what would affectionately become called Cardboard City. But at the time, I only had 3 buildings, and it was sci-fi. I was into sci-fi way back, getting into it in '77 when Star Wars came out, when I was out on the West Coast. But inspired by that, I started to put together a few sci-fi buildings just out of cardboard and things that were laying around the house. And Todd's like, "Hey, you should make a whole city like this." I'm like, "That sounds pretty cool," you know? So we started working on that until it eventually sprawled over the entire enclosed front porch. And my dad had to put a halt to that. And we were trying to engineer some form of a bridge or something, but my dad
Wasn't having it.
he wasn't going for it. But yeah, that was the catalyst, at least for us crossing paths and becoming friends eventually. So yeah,
That's awesome. How old were you?
10, 11.
10, 11.
How to love.
Nice. Nice. Now, would you say that city was a catalyst for you guys to begin putting a story to, like, maybe the city, or how did that work?
He had already been writing before that, short stories, and he was showing them to me, and I was like, I want to do this.
Mhm.
And that's where Bennu came from. I wrote The Daytime Ended, and he was writing What's in the House, which now we're working on. It's called 26 now. So even after all these years, we're bringing those stories back.
That's pretty wild how they tend to take a life of their own as they develop. What's that like for either of you? Like how you develop your story process?
I mean, I think a lot of it starts with, for example, with what is now Saboteur and this whole Merrizien story trilogy. Todd has always been, I think, amazing at world building, like in coming up with a lot of the intricacies, because that story takes place in another galaxy. So it's like you have to create, the political structure, the religious dynamics, the different cultures, and you have to do all these backstories and history and stuff. And that's always been a tremendous strength of Todd's. And that, from there, I think we just would work together to, build out the characters and plot lines and cool scenes that could happen, and then tying that into the stories. But, I think that early on, a lot of it was inspired. We always loved Star Wars, but we felt like we wanted something a little bit edgier and like a little more grounded and
Darker.
darker, for lack of a better word, because Todd is the master of some of the darker elements of the stories. But anyway, yeah, I think that the catalyst for ideas. And now when we, like, for Bennu, as Todd mentioned, kind of going back and thinking about things that we had started in the past, and now with having all the life experience, it takes on a whole different life. But it's kind of neat to know that it was inspired by something from when we were in grade school.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they tend to come from a lot of different parts of our lives, I think, as far as inspiration and stuff. And we've always been, into a lot of like pop culture stuff, and things like that over the years. And, sometimes we get inspired by something that we're like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to do a version of this type of a thing.
Now I'm curious, Todd, with the city building and like the social structures. Do you guys do much of like history? Are you history buffs or?
I enjoyed political science when I was in college. So, and in Salvatore, like I was always fascinated with Europe after during the Cold War, and there was the solidarity in Poland. So I took that idea of rebellion, and that's what's in Salvatore.
Interesting. So that's where your thought process.
Yeah.
I feel like you always have to base something on something that you have a concept of.
Yeah, it does help to ground it, especially in science fiction and fantasy, because, if it's not grounded in something that we as people here, humans on Earth can't connect with, then it's going to be hollow, and I don't think people are going to be as compelled to continue reading and also to connect with the characters if there aren't some themes or things historically that make it feel grounded.
Absolutely. And that's it. I gave them extra questions, which I talked to them about before. Because that was one cool thing, because I never got to redo. But that was one cool thing, because I like what we did last time. But now I got a chance to like really think about things a little bit more. And I had come up with the question for you guys about do you base your characters upon the people that you know or have experiences with?
Definitely. But it grounds us for the story. So it's either characteristics of someone we know, or names, or events.
And that helps keep your character relatable.
Relatable. It's like an investment. You become invested in that character then.
And I think it helps us as writers to keep their motivations and their personality consistent.
Right.
And to think like, okay, well, what would this person do if this situation came up? Right. And so it helps us to stay consistent. But I think also it even grounds us on some level, because, we have a deeper connection, because the character reminds us of somebody that is actually real to us. And so, while it's not cookie cutter or verbatim, just having that as a reference point to make sure we don't go off the rails with characters, I think is really helpful.
Because I think it's funny, because like when you, especially like I do construction work, so you can say, "Wow, if so and so was here, they would have definitely did this, or they would have definitely did that," because you have a frame of reference. And I think that's awesome that I don't know how you would do it without that.
Yeah, I think again, I think characters would come across a little bit shallow and not as well developed.
Mm,
Um, if you don't have at least a reference point or a starting point for the characters. And so sometimes, Todd will bring some, like, even in the story that we just started, we got about 6 chapters in over the last couple of weeks. And we had a couple of chapters in, and then Todd said, this main character reminds me of this person, and gave me a little bit of background on it, and we looked at some pictures and stuff, and it really, I know it helped me at that point to feel an even deeper connection to the character, and it just makes it easier to write and to figure out what they would do in certain scenarios.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I'm curious about with Star Wars and their sci-fi connection. And I found this part fairly interesting. And so, what was it like? Um, I'm trying to get into this without giving it away. Since I already did the answer. Uh, uh, how did Star Wars affect you and like seeing that and being like, hey, I would love to do sci-fi writing?
Mhm.
It was just awe-inspiring. I mean, it was just an amazing story, and the special effects, it was nothing really like that before.
Yeah, and I was like 8 years old. And we were living out in the LA area in Pomona, California. And I remember my dad even seeing the ad before we had gone to see it or was even in the theater on TV. And he's like, I remember him saying this to me. He's like, Erik, there's something about that
Mm-hmm.
that it just looks like unlike anything that we've ever seen before. And we tried for weeks to get in, and we'd go early. Like, by the time, we get there, the line was 3 times around the movie theater and out the parking lot. And people were getting married in the line, dressed in, it's like original cosplayers, dressed as like Obi-Wan was the priest and Han was, the husband, and Leia was the wife. And, it was just something that it, at age 8 for me just captured my imagination, and going into the theater, and out there it was one movie per theater, and it was a huge like amphitheater thing, and the curtains would go back, and you'd see the 20th Century Fox logo, but there really was nothing like that. That opening scene, with the ships coming in over the starscape and the planets, and and for me that really was um, so influential and inspiring me to be creative, or want to create things. And so for me, that's why, like, when, Todd and I became friends, and, I had already been, doing the drawings and the writing and stuff like that. And having somebody else to share that with and to develop that with, I think has been a gift over the years that, we just continue to, seek out, together.
Mm-hmm. That's that was such an iconic movie, and it's transcended beyond like who didn't want to be have a lightsaber as a kid, smacking each other, lightsaber at each other.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to be uh, Luke or Darth or Han or Chewbacca, or and of course all the girls wanted to be Princess Leia.
Right.
So, which characters do both of you relate to the most?
There. Yeah.
Come to the top.
Little father. For me, it was always Luke, because he was like aspiring, always kind of yearning for the adventure or whatever, and that always spoke to me. Maybe because he was the youngest of the characters as well. That helped me identify. I mean, I always thought Han was the coolest, but I think I identified most with Luke. as I was growing up, and remember back in 70s and 80s, especially, it's not like it is now where it's kind of cool to be a nerd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got all these things, social media and groups of people. And I think now it's just more widely accepted. But back then, it wasn't, quite as, I don't know, people just didn't get into it at the level that I did. So, you know, um, yeah, so I think Luke for me was probably someone that I could identify with as I was going through those grade school and junior high years for the most.
And so it's I know for you, it's the darkness that draws you into Vader.
And he was just such a cool character. It just
Mhm. Yeah, there's things about Vader that like that's my favorite character too. Like I was always like, yeah, I would definitely endorse Vader. I like to lift people up.
Like
yes.
Oh man. You know, so you guys have done like stories and screenplays together?
We started doing screenplays. That's how. Well, when we were when we first met, it was in the stories, and then once we got into late high school or early college, we always wanted to do movies, so we kind of did the screenplay format. And then when we started writing again 6 years ago,
Mhm.
we went back to the story.
Interesting. Yeah, that was curious to me also is that you guys had a hiatus, and after was it during when did you weren't able to necessarily write together as much?
Well, right after college, up until 6 years ago.
Yeah, so that's a good amount of time.
Yeah, he lost his father, and we reconnected there. And then I had a heart attack, and I told him, I said, I really want to finish this story. We never finished it.
Mhm.
And that was just the plan, just to finish it. And then as we're writing it, he's there like, maybe we should publish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was really, I think, the perfect timing for us to get back together and reconnect and resurrect some of these things that we have been working on. And this Merrizien story trilogy that we're working on now was something that started way back even in junior high with something called Conquest of the Stars. And we actually, even at that point, we did it as a screenplay, but we basically did a screenplay for a 2-hour sci-fi movie in junior high. So,
Yeah,
and
might need tweaked a little bit.
it needed quite a bit of an overhaul, I'll say that. But it's funny because a lot of the characters that we developed for that are still,
Mhm.
in the current version, much more developed, but it definitely, came out of that time. And then when we got into early college, we took some of the ideas from that and, made it into something that was a little bit, more mature. And that's what we pulled back out again when we got back together more recently. And, as we looked at the formatting of it, we thought, well, what are the odds of selling a screenplay? But, we would have a lot more flexibility to do it as a novel or a trilogy of novels. And it would also, I think, in a way, force us to go a little deeper into the characters' motivations and describing the world building and stuff like that, that, you don't typically go as deep with when you're doing screenplays.
Right.
So I think that was another reason we went that direction, as well as having I think, a greater likelihood of actually getting published.
Yeah. No, curious too. When you would look back at these characters that you guys created when you were young, and then now you're in your 50s, and you go back and you look, did it give you more depth to be able to deepen the character and their development, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, they were very shallow.
Yeah.
No character.
A lot of action and no.
Yeah. Yeah. So after 40 years, yeah, I always tell them I regret that we didn't write during those times.
Yeah.
But that time also gave us an opportunity to do depth into the characters and make them real.
Yeah, we were able to. I mean, we had just so much more life experience that we could unpack and maybe get into some of the more gray areas and complexities with the characters as they went through different situations. And then also, it's Todd mentioned like how he, with political science and history and stuff, that he was able to even do, I think, more believable world building, but in a way that still feels a little bit foreign and alien because it's in a different place, but enough groundedness to it that people can identify with it.
Because you tend to understand more what holds people and communities and civilizations together, as opposed to I'm 12. I just don't have much shit on it.
Yeah,
That's
like,
what it was.
Yeah.
like playing with action figures and putting it down in the screenplay,
That's exactly how I would think that it would be. I mean, I've never
Yeah.
ever tried to do it.
And we would read that old stuff and be like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, even when we started writing, when we got back together about 7 years ago and started writing this one again, and then we did the first draft of it, when we were going back through the second time, he would say, "Is this a carryover from from when we were in high school or in early college?" And so, we started becoming a little more sensitive to, picking up on those things pretty quickly too.
Right. And then I wonder, I guess you get some sense of like how your characters are flawed and how they're good, and what is their like motivating factors to find that. I feel like Tommy would have to give me that a lot more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, relationships, over the years that, you kind of work in or weave into some of the interactions between the characters, or the motivation of why they would do something or not do something or believe something or be skeptical. I mean, all of those things are, elements of just being human. But if you don't have that life experience, then, what are you pulling from?
Nothing.
Right? I am no father. That's what we got.
Now, where did this Merrizien, let me make sure I'm saying this right. Merrizians?
Yeah.
Where does the Merrizians come from?
He just started as a character when we were in junior high, and just through life experience, he got his own story.
Interesting. And you don't want to give away too much of it, except I assume that has to do with the Saboteur first novel. That is what being published now, or are you still
looking for it? No, the editing's done. We're looking for representation now.
It will be pitching some agents in a couple of months, and so we'll see how that goes. But we want to try that first before moving into self-publishing with it, and try to go the traditional route. And we've been really close with some agents. I mean, sometimes it's just timing. Like they love the story, but they are already representing somebody to the publishers that kind of fill that niche. So, there's a lot of wheels of motion, to get that. And we're going to keep at it while we continue to write the trilogy. We are just about done with the first draft of the second book, Protege. And, we'll continue getting that, in a place where it is what we feel tight enough to approach agents. And we'll do the same with the third. And it's nice now because these days you do have the option of self-publishing. So worst case scenario down the road, if we get through, we have the three books written, at that point we could release them as a trilogy and do a self-publishing route. But for now, yeah, we want to kind of try the traditional route on that series.
So what makes you guys intent on going the traditional route, especially when you've already self-published one book?
It's tough to get that out there, like
Marketing.
Yeah,
because
the resources we don't have. So
yeah, and basically, I mean, the big difference there, I mean, first of all, like if you get an agent and then they sell to a big publisher, they have, well, I would call the big guns, right? They have like these
massive,
like they have your editors, they have your marketing staff, your art design, then they basically front all of that for you financially. And then, you get a much smaller percentage than you would self-publishing, but you're going to sell,
exponentially.
Yeah, like 1 million books versus,
Yeah.
So, I think that we love the process of writing. And for us, it's the primary objective for us is, hopefully get these books out to as many people as possible. And, hopefully, in a way that people enjoy, reading the stories and all of that. And so whatever it takes to do that, I think we're pretty flexible with, but yeah, the traditional, I think for something as big as what we've invested our entire lives in, which is now the Merrizien story trilogy, we'd like that to, be as available to the most amount of people as possible, to be able to get that out there. And it would be really cool at some point. We always say about whether like they would get turned into movies or like a streaming show or something like that. But you gotta get the story out there somehow.
And so what's that like, the process of finding an agent for you guys so far? Like how have you found that? Because I know there's probably other people that have watched it or like, hey, I might like that. Well,
we kind of stumbled on it by accident during COVID. It was writing conferences you could go to in person all over the country. They have them every couple months. But when COVID hit, they went online. So we stumbled on that way, and then you could just meet your agent online and do your pitch.
There were some things you guys were telling me last time about how these pitches are. I found the process pretty interesting. I didn't think it would be like that.
Yeah, it's like
that.
10 minutes. You have 10 minutes, make your pitch, and then they'll decide if they want to know more or you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some that have requested a small amount, like first chapter. We've had a few that have requested the entire manuscript. We actually got an encouraging no, if there is such a thing. But she really enjoyed it. She said she found it very readable. And there's another agent within their agency that she thought would be a better fit for. But again, timing, they're closed to sci-fi and fantasy right now. So that's one that we'll keep an eye on because we already have like a foot in the door from this agent that's already in the agency and liked it. So as soon as the other one opens up, we'll be able to, hopefully pitch that agent at that time. And so, yeah, you really, you go in and you hope for the best, that, and that's one thing we've seemed to do really well with is pitching the idea to the point where they at least want to see something. But
got to catch your attention somehow.
Yeah. So that's been a process, and I think you said about the ability to be able to take no's and rejection and move forward is probably the most important thing as writers. And I think a lot of authors would say the same thing, like you hear about best-selling authors now and what they went through to sell their first book. and how many rejection letters they got, or, people just saying no for whatever reason. And I think that's where enjoying the process really kicks in, because it's, you know, not the be all and end all. I mean, we enjoy getting together and working on these stories and, challenging assumptions when it comes to, the story and the characters and stuff. But if that wasn't there, I could see where people could really get discouraged and just say, you know what, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I told you guys about the story of I always wanted to write. And my ninth grade English teacher brought in that writer. He said, well, if you ever want to get rich, don't become a writer. Get used to hearing no. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's why I want to do this now.
I mean, you bring up that point, but, teachers have such a profound impact
Mhm.
on people when they're, children, as they're developing and beginning to decide what they want to do or not do. And I think that, you know, that's such a powerful dynamic in anybody's lives. And I mean, on the other side of that, I remember having a teacher when I think it would have been sixth grade, I think it was. And we had turned in several assignments at this point, writing assignments, and he pulled me aside after one of the classes, and the rest of the students had left, and he just really encouraged me. He said, this is like really good writing. I think you would be good to pursue something in, English or writing or something like that. And to this day, that still, comes up in my mind, that he was somebody that influenced me in a positive way to continue down that road.
Mhm.
And, I think it's just as easy, like you said, to be discouraged and say, and maybe he was accurate, but I mean, it is hard. It is hard, but on the other hand,
come in a Porsche 911.
yeah, I mean, just think, you could be a best-selling author right now.
Yeah. Because I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of people who do any type of creative thing is if you're not immediately not all ideas catch on fast. And especially with writing, it's you got to be really like enjoy the author's style. And I think it's interesting too that you guys co-write. And haven't got to read Saboteur yet, but whenever it comes up. But like you guys did Bennu, which I thoroughly enjoyed, highly recommend to anyone that likes a very fast pace, very keeps you enthralled and like a page turner, something that keeps you engaged with it. You're like, oh wow, what's going on? So how did your novella come about?
It was one of the first stories that I had worked on when we met. And of course, the idea of that story is long gone, but the concept, it was like, let's do something, because I had trouble writing. You kind of get burned out. We've been on this tour for so long,
Mhm.
and I just wanted something different to do. So I tried to write it myself, just as an exercise, and got stuck and told Erik, I said, I have this idea. It's from back in 80, and help me get it down on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used the word palate cleanser. Like, I think I need a palate cleanser from this trilogy that we've been working on for so long. And he brought the idea to me, and the fact that it was rooted in a book from way back, like grade school, really kind of got me nostalgic about it. And when he laid out like the current version of it, that was, much more thought out and, complex in a good way, I thought, yeah, this could be pretty cool. And we were also at a good stopping point with Saboteur because we had just submitted it to our editor, and she was going to have it for a few months. And so we're like, what better time? We'll kind of keep our writing sharp and try something here on Earth. That's, something more, even more relatable on some level. We didn't have to do all the world building. And and I took just a lot of the main ideas that Todd had and started fleshing out some things. And then we went back and forth. I think really the first part of a lot of our stories start with some form of an outline.
Mhm.
And we typically are big on outlining before we dive in. We like to not overthink it, but at least give us like those guardrails. Like we know this is generally what we want to have happen in these 3 acts. And then from there, we think about how do we want to structure the chapters. And in Bennu, it made sense for us to have each chapter represent a day of the week. So
It did.
yeah, because it's all leading up to, day of impact and day after impact. So we thought, let's structure it in that way. And that was also a helpful format for, I think, for us to make sure that we weren't missing anything, that really needed to happen or that we needed to unpack on one of those days. Because if you don't look at it in terms of every day that these characters are going through, sometimes you can miss stuff. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was the way that we move forward with Bennu. And it's similar with the book that we're writing right now as a palate cleanser for Protege. So outlining after we have come up with the general premise and an idea, and then breaking it into chapters.
Would you like to give the audience a kind of, since this is published and we can see it and they get excited to see your upcoming book, Saboteur, would you like to give like a little blurb description of Bennu?
You go. Well, it's about a high school teacher that has a good background in astronomy and science, and he basically gets caught up in a cover up that his brother, who works for NASA, gets caught up in, and it's all related to this asteroid Bennu that is they're looking at it as it might hit, it might not hit, but what happens afterwards is a lot of, it's kind of a combination of a sci-fi thriller and yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the best category for it, would be a sci-fi thriller, because there's some things that get revealed that go beyond even just the danger of the asteroid itself hitting. So it's really him and how he protects his family, throughout all of these things that are unfolding. And he's also learning things about his brother that his brother was trying to protect him and his family from. So
I'd say that's pretty darn good blurb. I found the mania in it interesting. Did you guys find it easier with all the manias we've had, be it COVID, Me Too movement, all these other crazy that people get all upset about? And did you find it easy to play off of that because of recent events to find the mania in the story?
Yes. Because you loved it. So there was no what if.
Yeah.
Yeah, we even referenced COVID in there a couple of times. Like, well, remember what happened with COVID, and that was not even as bad as what we're facing right now.
Right.
And I think it really, like, to think about not being able to find a roll of toilet paper.
That's just
going there. I mean, come on.
Find toilet paper.
What in the world? When these things happen, I mean, and you understand. I mean, part of being human is, I mean, there's anxiety, there's like fear of the unknown, and you have like you said, the mania, like certain people are fueling that,
Mhm.
or certain platforms fuel that, and then it just becomes uncontrollable,
Mhm.
and I think that was something that it did make it easier to, inject that level of believability in it, because everybody has experienced it,
Mhm.
in our generation now.
Recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it's even more believable now than, prior to the pandemic and some of the things that have been surfacing in recent years. So yeah, it definitely impacted how we brought some of that to life.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Because it struck me, because it seems like we're always we're right on the tipping point at any given time of being brought down to our most base animal uh, instincts as humans. As to, and once things get chaotic, which it doesn't take long, it, it, it questions um, our human character. Which ones are the classic, are humans more good than evil, or more evil than good?
Mm.
I've always felt like it depends on the circumstance.
Yeah. Now there were some things that unfolded. Again, you brought some of the darker elements in, and accurate.
Yeah.
There's some things that unfold in a pharmacy, and I mean, it's like,
And it happens every day. It's
yeah, you do. You just, when you see the stuff that happens, I mean, sometimes you can do nothing but scratch your head and be like, really? I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah. And then the other part that I liked about it too is you showed, like, now all the things that we know, that the government will absolutely lie to us. They're not going to tell us the truth. They just won't.
Yeah, and that's the other element of it, is that they believe that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not because they're doing it, just to keep and withhold information, but they really do believe, like, if we let this out here, it's going to make things worse. And so we incorporated an element of that in there. But ultimately, we wanted there to be an element of hope too. And that's
Right.
why, the main character, Rich, is somebody who is really trying to do the right thing amidst all of this chaos and stuff falling apart around him. His main priority is, protecting his family, and trying to get through this and get out on the other end. Hopefully in a way that he can salvage his relationship with his family, and his students to some degree as well.
Mhm.
But that's, I think, we've all wrestled with those themes in our own lives on some level,
Absolutely.
or experienced that. So again, it's something that we want to try to root into something that's grounded enough for people to be like, oh, okay, I get where that would be challenging.
Absolutely. Well, you got us like, wow. And then, so do you both do illustration?
he did a lot more of it when we were younger.
Mm.
We have books. He'd draw out what the characters would look like, the different aliens.
Well, I still remember the cover of the book that we inspired this one, I guess, but The Daytime Ended, really captured the essence of, the situation. I remember the Earth, and this huge asteroid coming, and a tiny little rocket going up there to try to, throw it off course or something. But, again, that's, sixth grade, back then. But I did go into a little bit of art. I took some private art lessons, and did some art in college as well. And even when we resurrected, Merrizien story, I went back in and kind of pulled the pencils and pen and ink out again, and started drawing some of the characters' likenesses and stuff like that. That just, I think it helps us to have a visual representation of what these characters look like, and again, to make sure for consistency we're not changing something, like, you know, their eye color changes, or one scene they've got hair and the next time they're bald, you know, you don't want anything like that happening. But yeah, I think I probably did a little bit more with illustration.
Nice. Now, with your cover, like I know when we did my cover, we used Chat GPT to help create parameters, and then it kind of helped us generate. But my wife understands. She's the one that did all that. uh, it was wild that you put like certain concepts in, and you were able to get that. Or how did you guys form your cover?
We got there's a service online you can connect up with artists.
Mm.
And we looked into a couple, and then we settled on one, and I had a concept of how the other story was, how it was going to end. It was going to be him sitting on a deck chair looking over a lake. And that was an image I really liked.
Mm.
And we told the guy what we wanted, and
Yeah.
first thought, he had it down.
So we actually worked with a graphic artist in England, right?
Yeah.
He was in England, and met with him, you know, once, like virtual meeting and Zoom call, and we went over a little bit with the story and his vision, and yeah, he took it. We got back with just a couple little tweaks that we asked him to do, and he went back in and changed a couple little things in there, and we were really happy with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's also very cool the tools they have to do stuff like that. Now I was like, God,
Yeah.
oh, that's wild.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe that he nailed it on first shot.
Caught the whole essence of everything.
Yep.
Did you self-describe to him that you wanted to see a little rocket going up against
Yeah, that would have probably been a little more challenging for him, to be honest. Dude. Like, but yeah, we could have had to do that. If we really wanted to hold true to history and tradition in our friendship, that's what that cover would have looked like.
Well, we actually do reference the original cover in this book.
We do. Yeah, because the main character's son, and if I remember, like towards the end, he was drawing in his sketchbook, and it's the cover from what he did when he was in grade school. So that was our nod to the past.
Absolutely. I see it now. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. The other question I got to ask you guys, and I guess with Bennu you didn't have to do it so much, but what did you have to edit out that you wish you didn't have to cut, or wish would have made the cut?
Bennu really nothing. Like he had said earlier, the editor had us add more to it, so that was nice. It really deepened the story. But with Salvatore, the story was so big. Every time we would pitch it, we kept pitching just one part of the story. And then they'd get it, we'd like this, you're lost in the maze. So when it came time to really focus, we took a lot out of that story.
Yeah, like over half.
Yeah.
We have been working on that intensively for about 4 years up to that point. And there were some chapters and scenes that, I mean, we love.
Yeah, if you become invested, it's like your creation.
Yeah,
you can't. Like gave us an opportunity to go deeper with the side of the story that we chose.
Yeah, and that was a big development in our growth. You know, to begin, because I mean, we were much more into like the screenplays for the bulk of our, you know, as we got a little older, and coming back into writing novels it's a different approach to it. And, you know, we really have learned a lot, you know, through just going through the process together, challenging each other, but also going to these writers conferences and learning. And I'm always watching stuff on like masterclass from best-selling authors, and you just file stuff away because there's no cookie cutter. But, again, you start picking up themes of, oh yeah, well, what if we applied that to our writing style or what we're doing with this story? And actually it was an agent that challenged us on that. If you remember that one that said like, because we had 8 POVs, 8 point of view characters. And
Not to be hard to keep up with.
yeah, so
it was challenging, but it was fun.
yeah. But yeah, when I approached Todd initially about, basically cutting this thing in half, that was, yeah, that
was rough.
took a little while to process.
I'll bet. Like, the pain.
But it does pay off. And you have to be open because either agents are going to dislike something, editors. And if you want to make it, you have to pivot and adjust. And
yeah, without losing the essence of what it is that we know how we want to present certain things. So yeah, we got to be open and pivot and do all these things. But there's also other elements of it where we do hold fast and we're like, okay, now this is,
these are your core characters.
yeah, this is our vision for that within, some of these other structural changes.
Nice. And that's something that you could probably go back later and be like, hey, let's take a look at that again. Is there something potentially to use there, or do you think that's potential, or does it just tie into the Merrizien so much that?
Yeah, we're planning to go and resurrect the other side of the story.
we're just not quite sure how it's going to work out.
Yeah, because the timeline has been affected by things that we needed to do on this side of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And because before it was all lumped in together, I mean, we did have a timeline and stuff worked out to make sure that character, that was another thing that he would catch me on. Like I would write a character and somewhere and he'd be like, this character cannot be here right now because of this chapter. And I'm like, oh geez, because it's a lot to keep track of.
Right.
But yeah, I think there are definitely a lot of scenes and chapters and elements that I think we can resurrect and pull into like another trilogy that focuses on the characters that we had to pull out. And where possible, there will be some overlap into the Merrizien story side, of course, because they're all in that same place. And many of them would know of each other for various reasons. But, I think that that's something that we're going to revisit. Like once we get this trilogy done, we're going to go back and that'll be the next step, besides maybe considering a couple of standalone in the same universe over there.
Mm-hmm.
But it just depends on what our state of mind is by the time we get to the end of this trilogy, because it's been blood, sweat, and tears. Like I said, we enjoy the process. It's just, I think sometimes we do need those palate cleansers, like Bennu and this new 26 that we're working on.
Now, I think a lot of people don't understand how much time and energy goes into creating something like that. Do you have like a process that you stick to that hey, I'm going to write so many hours this day, or I'm going to write this day, this day, this day? Do you have some type of like?
For me, it's whenever the iron's hot.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to with self-imposed deadlines set and write, and I just can't. So it's whenever it's flowing, that's when I will do it.
Yeah, and you've shared with me sometimes it's like it'll hit you at different times, either like watching a video or listening to music or driving to doing back and work. Sometimes it'll come up with some of these really cool ideas. Like,
I'll text me like, "Hey, I'm gonna tell you this."
Yeah, and then for me, it's basically I just use whatever nook and cranny time I have because I have a full-time job and family and other things that are going on. But anytime that I have a little bit of downtime, I try to use that to be intentional and write what I can and get some of the stuff out of my head onto the page so that then once I see that, I can begin picking apart, like, okay, this works, but this isn't quite right. And we meet every Sunday night.
Yep.
I mean, it's with rare exception that we don't. So from
That's cool.
7 to 9 or 7 to 10, at least 3 or 4 hours a week. And we'll go over, sometimes I'll do a read through where I'll read out loud a chapter. And then we jokingly say, get your highlighter out, because he'll highlight all these things that need to be addressed. And we'll discuss them and make some changes there. And then, sometimes we'll make edits during the week if they're too substantial for our meeting night. But every Sunday, we've carved out that time for the opportunity to just, work on whatever story we're working on at that point. And like right now, we kind of got 2 going, but we'll tend to put way more time on the protege, and then with the time that we have left, we'll start talking about this new book that we're working on. But yeah, that's pretty much our
and it's worked for 6 years.
Heck yeah. And you're making progress.
Oh yeah,
because that is true. Like, you're doing a full-time job. Sometimes you're just like, last thing I want to do is fucking write right now.
I'll give them a disclaimer. I'll be like, hey, work was terrible today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder, because like, I know so many people that like are famous, but they have like a set work ethic. But I don't know if that always works for a lot of people, because it's so different for like when you're creating something that like just like you say, you have these moments of inspiration where you're like, hey, that's a cool idea. Let's try that. Or, I'm sure it's much different with like when you told me about ghost stories, which we're going to try. We're steal that idea from Todd. Next year, we're going to try to do ghost stories. Might try to get it done this year or this month, but I don't know how that's going to work out. So, but I find that very curious, because everybody has such a different creative process.
Our process has changed over the years. I mean, we went from laying on his grandparents' floor, writing in notebooks, to now writing a shared document. And then even how we write, we used to do, we divvied up by POV. And then now he kind of like writes so much, and then I go in and tidy it up.
Now, see, that's interesting with your points of view, because like, how different is the thought process going from first person to, say, third person?
I mean, that's been actually, it was a little bit easier going from third to first for me anyway, because you're writing it in a more intimate way. It's not well, we do what's called close third person, which is where you can still get into your characters' minds and motivations and stuff. It's not like saying like, I went here, or this happened to me, in the way that you're presenting the story. And it unfolds differently from that first person POV. And for this is the first time that we've been working on first person, and this story we're just now working on.
Is that 26 or
yes,
protege? Okay,
26, yeah. And we weren't really sure how that was going to go. And I just dug in one night because I was feeling inspired, so I started putting together the first chapter and did a read through for Todd, and
loved it.
He seemed to really like it. So
it was very refreshing.
Yeah.
And so in that respect, I think it's a little easier. But you still have to catch yourself like writing in the third person and making sure that you're consistently, like right now, it's not as challenging because we're like 6 chapters into this first person point of view story now. But I think for the first couple of chapters, it was a little like a bit of a dance.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, wait, I'm not in third person. I'm like, and I go back and it would change even to some degree the scene, going from that third to first person. But I love it. I like the first person. Now, here's the thing: like first person point of view would never work with Saboteur because there's 4 POVs. So a reader wouldn't know, like, who's I? Who are we referring to?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But in
I never would have even thought about that.
and in 26, there's only 1 POV, and so you can really get away with first person in that. Bennu could have been first person, but we never really considered it because we had been writing third person for forever. Really. We had never written in first person, so I think it was, let's do what we're familiar with for that palate cleanser story. And I think actually when you were talking to, the other writer, the local writer about that, the first person kind of popped into my head as something like,
Yeah, she was working on a story and she asked for our advice, third person or first person, and that's what got them thinking about it.
So that's definitely how hard did you find it to kind of get out of your comfort zone and flip it? Like,
I think it was smooth.
Yeah, I think the challenge for both of us was taking the leap more than anything, because we were back and forth on, well, how's this actually gonna look, or how's it gonna read? And fortunately, I had just finished a couple of books from best-selling authors that were from first person. One was Andy Weir, Project Hail Mary, which is a sci-fi book. It was great. There's the movies coming out, I think, early next year. And the other one was called The Tainted Cup. And I think just the way everything came together, the fact that I had just recently read a couple of first person POV books, and when his friend also mentioned about like questioning which POV do you think would be better, that all just came together at that point in time. And also the fact that we were considering what was going to be our next palette cleanser. Because we were soon we'll be providing Protege to the editor, and we're going to have a little more time to work on another project. But I mean, I didn't think we would be this far along on it at this point.
Well, I love this scuba sherbet, so that's good.
For the encouragement.
Like 26.
Yeah. I think actually that one, we're excited about that one.
Because does it feel better, like now that you've done this and self-printed with Bennu, do you feel like a little bit easier and like hey, this can be a lot of fun for us to write these other like will it be like a novella like Bennu, or will it be?
It might be a little longer.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely going to be longer, and the way it's unfolding now, it'll be on the cusp of a novella or a novel. It could go a little bit. It's either going to be a long novella or a shorter novel.
I'm thinking long novella.
Yeah, it probably. I would agree with that.
Just out of curiosity, I'm not sure, where does novella end and a novel begin?
They typically do it by word count, and so I want to say, and there are ranges. I mean, it's not an exact science, but I think somewhere around up to 50,000 words, it would be considered a novella, and anything over 50,000 would be a novel. And there's also a novelette, which is longer than a short story, but shorter than a novella. So they've got all kind of categories. But yeah, I think I want to say around 50,000.
That's awesome.
Is the the rough number of words that they look at.
Well, thanks for clarifying that for me, because for years I've been like, is it a novel? Is it a novella?
Yeah.
Is it a short story? Long story? I don't know.
A collection of short stories? What is it? We actually thought about that.
We were going to do that. That Bennu was going to be part of a bunch of short stories that we're lining up, and
yeah,
he was like, "No, let's let's get this out there.
Well, it became a little bit longer than a short story because we were going to do maybe 4 or 5 short stories that we make up a, like what would be a regular sized novel. I mean, you've read all of them, but this, and I think once we got it to our editor and she helped us to unpack certain things, it became a little bit more than, we didn't want it to get lost in a collection, I guess, probably the best way to put that.
Neither one of you see that. But now I want to make sure we're not losing. I think we're still good. Okay.
Good to me.
I was like, wow, we've been having this great conversation. I hope we have some.
I still see a great border around it, as long as that's the case.
That is. What did you guys feel like you wanted the readers to get out of Bennu? What would you want them to take away from it?
Well, I think, what's been really cool about it is when you put it out there to the universe, where people can actually read it, give you feedback, is that we've been encouraged by the feedback. So I kind of yield to that. Like, we hope that when somebody sits down to read it, that they feel like they've been, transported somewhere that was enthralling and keeping them guessing, and that it felt like a good use of their time and to sit down and read. And the reviews that we've gotten, some formally, like on Amazon or Goodreads, or just anecdotally by people that didn't necessarily put a review in, but gave us feedback, have all been really encouraging. And there's been a lot of conversation around things that happened to characters or decisions that characters made. There was, one in particular.
Yes.
I know my wife was like, why did she do that?
Yeah.
Why did,
Because Todd made her.
he got you on that one. He got you on that. But
Yeah, that was all me.
I think that's what we're hearing is what we hoped that we would be able to, allow people to experience as a result of going through it. It's considered a quick read on Amazon. We know a lot of people have, read it in some in one sitting, some in 2 or 3, but it's certainly not one that we've heard anybody deliberated over, in order to get to the end. So,
Right.
So we're really happy about that, and hopefully that'll continue to be the case as more people read it, and then as we, make other books and stories available.
Because I know that's what, when I read the first day I got it, I had a couple of beers and I said, I'm going to read the first chapter. Because I was working, having to get up early. So I was like, I'll read the first chapter. And then I read the first chapter and I was like, I'm going to have to go to bed. I want more. I want more. And then the next day I was able to read the whole thing. And I was like, oh, yeah. That was, it just kept you going in a thrall, page turner. It was exciting.
I was, when we started getting the reviews and people were saying they couldn't put it down, they just had to keep reading it. That kind of surprised me, and I don't know why.
Because everybody doubts their own work. You're just like,
True,
my God, is this good enough? Oh, what about this? Oh, what about that?
Well, you even had people at work come up and be like, I can't believe what just happened.
I'm reading and I'll get a text message. Really?
Did one of your coworkers leave a note or something?
Oh, yeah.
Like, she wasn't working at the time, but wrote a note or something. Like, drew some pictures, like representing a scene that surprised her. But yeah, that part of it, we're really happy that at least it's evoking the response that we hoped it would. And that kind of goes back, I think, even to in college when we had the opportunity we wrote a screenplay for a theatrical performance at Penn State, Altoona. And then the acting classes, they got to like audition And so it was kind of cool. It was like
That
we
is
were really
neat.
going through the process. So we selected our actors and directed them for the live performance. And at one point, the one character had a really bad injury and lifted the shirt, and everybody just gasped. It was just like we. I think that was for us another moment where we were like, we should do more of this, because that was so cool to get that reaction from the audience,
Yeah.
with the characters. So yeah.
So what was the theatrical work that you guys did?
It was so it was like the directing class and the acting class, and traditionally the teacher would tell you to get something that's already been made and just put it on stage. But we were able to convince her to allow us to do our own. So we had really seen it was a disagreement between brothers, and yeah,
Yeah. No, that was scary.
yeah,
Yeah, this took it to another level too, because it was very dramatic. But the actors did a great job.
yeah.
I mean,
They really
they took what we had, put down and just embraced it.
Mhm.
And some of them added their own little elements to it that really, again, elevated it to something that we didn't even expect. So
The way their interpretation of the character and the
yeah.
yeah, and the timing of the emotions and the authenticity of the emotions, we felt it on some level when we were writing it, but when you see it portrayed, it was just a whole nother experience.
That's my first like all moment.
yeah, that would be very exciting.
Yeah, you have 30 some people in a classroom, and they all react the same way at the same time.
Mhm.
That's gotta feel good.
It did.
Yeah,
It did.
excellent. Like, yeah, there's something about watching people's reaction to stuff that you do that you're like, oh, that's cool. I can only imagine writing something like that. Like, oh my God. I'm just a construction guy. I like the reaction when people tell me, oh, wow, thank you.
Well, yeah, it's really the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a job well done, and you've enriched somebody's life on some level, and yeah, they're just different ways of going about that. Like having that positive influence on people's lives, it comes back to what we hope that will be transmitted through our stories.
Awesome. And then, oh, yeah, the characters and real people. I love that. That you do draw on characters around you to give you the. Oh, we already talked about that. Damn, got ahead of myself. But like, who are some of you guys' favorite authors and books right now when you're not writing?
I'm reading right now Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archives, which is more fantasy than sci-fi, but it does have some sci-fi elements to it. And then, as I mentioned, those first-person POVs. Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary was fantastic. I mean, it was another one that was a pretty quick read for me.
Mm-hmm.
The Tainted Cup was good, but yeah, there's some sci-fi series that I've read in recent years that are good. There's one that's called like the Donovan series or something that was really good. It had ties to Earth, but they were on a different planet. And then The Expanse. I don't know if you've seen the Amazon Prime had a series called The Expanse, which has got like a 98% on it.
I believe I have seen it.
But there's a series of books who are also co-authors
Mhm.
and work in some ways similar to what we do. I think it's something S.E. Corey is their name, their pen name. And they have a series. I want to say there's 8 or 9 books in that series, but it is pretty cool. There's Earth, and then they have this other.
Last thing I heard was Expanse.
I was on the question of the books. What I've been reading lately. Remember?
Mm-hmm. Yo, um, let's see. Trying to think how I could you just keep that fed. Make sure it's still recording. Yes. Goofy fucking thing. I don't know why it's giving me so much shit, but it is what it is. So, Expanse. And who was that based on? That book Expanse? Or
It was a Prime series.
is it Prime Video?
Yeah. They it actually started on the Sci-Fi channel, like the first season or two, and then Amazon picked it up and got really good ratings. But it was because of that I bought the first book in the series, and it just sucked me in. So ended up reading all 8 or 9 books, and yeah, and the books are even better than the series, and the series was pretty good. So
Yeah, I find that a lot, that books are better than series. And so what's your favorite books, Todd?
War Day, My Living Dead. Oh, The Keep. The Keep. The Keep.
that was made into a movie too.
Yeah, that was actually supposed to be based off of a true story. Took place in Romania.
Oh, the light died. Oh, fucker. That's all right. We can finish it up. We'll be able to see us.
So it was supposed to take place in Romania during World War II, and there was some supernatural stuff that took place. So that's a really good one. Like I said, War Day. Every couple of years I go back and reread that.
Who did War Day?
I couldn't tell you.
I've never even heard of it.
It's good. It takes place in the late 90s. It's a limited nuclear strike between the Soviets and America. It picks up on the day that it happens and then follows through for 5 years. It's a really good story.
That would be interesting to try to, because you remember that movie, The Day After Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Who can forget that if you lived in the 80s when
Exactly.
That's all you were worried about.
That's what I keep trying to tell my buddy Dave about. I'm like, dude, we had nuclear war drills. We get under our desk. I have no idea what the fuck we were getting under our desk.
What was that gonna do?
Yeah, I have no idea. But he's like, no. I was like, no, dude, we did. We definitely got under our desk for nuclear war drills. And then, I want to make sure we get you guys' book plugged in. Where can people go to get your book, Bennu?
Yeah, easiest place is just to go to Amazon and type in Bennu, Todd and Erik Vecere, can get it there. And then also people can check out our website. That's just merrizionstory.com. And they can link through that to our Facebook page and our X page. So it's all there. But the easiest place is Amazon to get the book.
Great.
We got it paperback, ebook, and the Kindle Unlimited.
Cool. We'll make sure we have you guys' links placed on the video or on the podcast, so that at the bottom of the page or in the I don't know, my wife does that. I have no idea. She'll put the links in there. I just be like, honey, we put the links in, please. So one more question before I let you guys get out of here is do you believe in aliens?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's cool to speculate about, what would it look like, if they made their presence known, and how would we react? What would be the dynamics around that contact, figuring out what their intentions are? How would you communicate? If, we didn't speak the same language or even understood the same concepts,
Right.
what would that even look like? But, I think that's one of the things that keeps the imagination going, a lot of our stories will have some element in that, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, it is fun to think about.
Yeah.
It's just fun to think about, especially when you're Star Wars fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, come on, there has to be something else. With infinity out there, there's infinite possibilities.
Yeah,
How can there not be?
Whether they're Wookiees or not, I mean, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun having you guys here. Come second time. Because we are low budget.
No, we really appreciate the opportunity to come and share with you, and certainly appreciate what you're doing as well. Highlighting different things that are going on in the area. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Later, peeps.
My team and I know how valuable your time is, so we wanted to thank you for making Across the Table part of your day. By liking, sharing, and subscribing, you help keep us inspired and motivated to continue creating content for all of our listeners. If you have ideas for the show or would like to be a guest, please contact me via email at james@acrossthetablepodcast.com. That's james@acrossthetablepodcast.com. Thank you.
Pull up a chair, set the world aside. Let's find the truth, we keep trying.